Well, I haven't said anything yet. It's a little hard to speak up.
Louder!
Louder!
All right.
Yell at me, Chris. Come on.
We wanted to do this commemoration before we started the festivities, because I think oftentimes in the festivities of the 4th of July, and the fireworks and the parades and the barbecues and everything, as fun as they are, we have time to forget really what happened 334 years ago today, when a nation adopted a singular, very at the time, very unique idea that Thomas Jefferson stated so eloquently, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's rather fascinating to think that here we have a statement that really every man should be allowed and is really given the ability to pursue their life as they deem fit. An idea which at the time was completely revolutionary. Nowhere in the world was it practiced as such. And it's rather interesting to see, I think as from an LDS perspective, we have a very different view of the importance of the founding, both to the United States of America and to the world in general. And that we really take that idea that Jefferson says that they are endowed with their Creator to a whole new perspective, or to a whole new level. In Doctrine and Covenants 77, the Lord is telling Joseph Smith, according to the laws and constitution of the people, which I have suffered to be established, and should be maintained for the rights and protection of all flesh, or according to just and holy principles, that every man may act in doctrine and principle pertaining to futurity, according to the moral agency which I have given unto him, that every man may be accountable for his own sins in the day of judgment. And for this purpose have I established the constitution of this land, by the hand of wise men who I raised up unto this very purpose, and redeemed the land by the shedding of blood. We see that really that the ideas espoused in the American Revolution are central to our ability to not only have the Restoration, I don't think the one could exist without the other, but on top of it to practice these ideas, to really exercise our free agency to the fullest, which we know is an integral part of God's plan. And I think that this really is the miracle that we celebrate today. Anyone who's had the opportunity to study American history realizes that there's certain times when our country should not have existed. And that at the time it was considered one of the greatest experiments, and I think it remains one of the greatest experiments, to see whether a democratic form of government like we have is able to endure not only the hardships of war, but whether it can also endure the fruits of prosperity. And I think that President Kennedy in his inaugurals, we looked over different speeches to commemorate this evening, really articulates a vision and an obligation for each of us that we should remember, especially here in a foreign country, of the blessings we have as Americans and the duties we have as Americans. And I think it's for us to consider, I think that Jefferson also said something rather interesting on that point when he concludes the Declaration of Independence. And he says, and for the support of this declaration, with the firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. It's this commitment wholeheartedly to the ideals espoused, to that principle of defending the agency of not only our own countries, but in the future, with the advent of the modern century, of other people's rights to choose as well. And we've seen that both in those founders who in Philadelphia were willing to sacrifice that, and throughout the history of the United States, when people have sacrificed their life and liberty so that we can enjoy the freedoms we do, both as Americans and as citizens of the world today. And I think it would be just something for us to think about on this day, how we live up to that promise. I think it'd be important to think about the sacrifice that those previous generations have made. And I think we should all ask ourselves, do we do the same? Are we committed to those ideals and the defense of agency, and especially the God-given rights that people so willingly laid down their lives to defend?
Yes.
And I think that, thank you, Jared, it's one of the things to be considered. And I would ask us at this time, as we consider our dedication, our willingness to sacrifice our lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to the same lofty ideals, that this be a time to perhaps reconnect with our American heritage, to try to have a better understanding of the sacrifices made in previous generations, as well as the obligations we have to defend those rights and liberties that we enjoy. and help bring them to the rest of the world, that we can fulfill what I think is one of the great prayers, and I loved that when I came across in the Doctrine and Covenants when Joseph Smith says, "Have mercy, O Lord, on all the nations of the earth. Have mercy upon the rulers of our land. May those principles which were so honorably and nobly defended, namely the Constitution of our land by our forefathers, be established forever." And I just wish to you all a happy 4th of July, and I ask that, just before we get into the fun, you can perhaps consider these things and honor them, and hopefully they've meant something to you. I share these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
We don't want to take too much time away from the fun and games, so now we're going to sing the national anthem, so if you'd all take the appropriate action.